Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, y'all ain't gonna say nothing? Okay. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the tunes. Keep them going for a second, Marcus. Let's get folks into the space and situated. Y'all, can we give it up for Rob one more time? What a beautiful human right here in Greensboro. Hit him up if you didn't get your session with him while you've been here today. All right. We can do a slow fade. Thank you, Marcus. Y'all, welcome again. See you come down the aisle, Jenny Knight. Come on, close. Yes, love. Yes, love. Thank you. Yeah, y'all can come on up if you want to. Yeah. All right. Stay in the back. Thank you, Jenny. Anybody else? Any other takers? Front row? Front row. Okay. So lovely. Thank you so much. Come on up. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Friends, we are beyond thrilled to welcome Adrienne Maree Brown to our gathering. Go ahead and give it up. We believe her work has given language and shape to what so many of us in this network have been feeling. That building new worlds, new food systems, and ecosystems requires imagination as much as infrastructure and care as much as strategy. Ain't that right? And so Abby and I invited Adrienne because we believe her work embodies the courage and creativity this moment demands. As our food system shifts beneath our feet, Adrienne reminds us that building something new isn't about structures, it's about relationships, imagination, and care. Ain't that all right? So, in the spirit of our pickled okra, yes, pickled okra, we're calling on the recipes of our elders, their stories, their resilience, their brilliance, preserved across time. And we're asking what we carry forward as nourishment for this moment, this movement, for such a time as this. We believe her words will help us root deeper in each other and rise braver toward the future we are trying to co create together. So, Abby and I want to extend an invitation to each of you, asking you to dream together about what it means to build a food system that is liberatory, collaborative, and deeply human. Abby?
Yes. If you don't know, we want you to know who Adrienne Maree Brown is in some bio type ways. And then we'll get all the energies today. Adrienne Maree Brown is a movement facilitator. For decades has been supporting those of us who want to build movements to have the skills to do that well through somatics, through science fiction. She is a writer, a doula worker. She has nurtured books like Emergent Strategy. So many of us are facilitators in this room and really deeply appreciate that work, and it's tied to the natural world, which is also these people. Pleasure activism. We're so deeply embedded in this gathering and in our work in embedding joy in what we do, and that has been such a guide. Radical imagination, loving corrections, and works of fiction, including the most recent Ancestors. We see you as someone who has practice in world building and imagination, and we're so grateful. So that is Adrienne Maree Brown in a few snippets. And Adrienne has offered to share some of her writing as a way to ground us today. So,
Hi. Hi. Hello, my loves. How are you? I just remembered, I forgot, I grabbed my tarot deck on the way out the door because I wanted to pull a card for y'all. I made a tarot deck with some friends called the Lineages of Change Tarot Deck. The other thing I want to tell you is I just had my front tooth extracted and I've got this little like temper. Has anyone ever had tooth extraction? Okay, a few people. It's coming for all of you. Um, and I just want you to know like aging is real. But if I sound a little different from how I normally I sound different to me, it's because I've got a little contraption in my mouth. If you're really good, I might take it out and show you my little gap tooth smile. So the card I just pulled, I'm going to read you that, and then I'm going to read you a poem. And they seem to go together. So the card I pulled is the Ten of Air. Ten of Air. Air is the suit of the mind, is what's happening in our mind and our collective consciousness right now. And 10 is the ultimate overwhelm. It's the fullest. So the key words are catastrophe, defeat, the darkness before the dawn. The reading, sometimes it's all too much. There can be a pervasive sense of defeat, of impending catastrophe. Such desolation is not always just in our minds. It is rough out there. We have no choice but to face it, feel it, recognize it as a crisis to be addressed. The question to sit with is what comfort can you offer yourself in devastating moments? There's a quote from James Baldwin. There's a quote for each of these cards. James Baldwin, the homie, the ultimate wisdom keeper. You know, like I look around at the writers of my time and I take us all more seriously because I look back and I'm like, he's one of the writers of his time. And it's meaningful to be a writer. It's meaningful to tell the story of a time. But he also just had bars on bars on bars. So he said, it seems to me that one ought to rejoice in the fact of death, ought to decide, indeed, to earn one's death by confronting with passion the conundrum of life. One is responsible to life. It is the small beacon in that terrifying darkness from which we come and to which we shall return. One must negotiate this passage as nobly as possible for the sake of those who are coming after us. James Baldwin said that in The Fire Next Time. And we also included herbal wisdom in this because it's inspired by Octavia Butler. And if you don't know, let me tell you, she wanted us to know our herbs for the future. Okay. How many of y'all are like herbalists, or you are the ones who, like, when someone's sick, they're like, oh, honey, let me get you together? Yeah. Okay. Everybody needs to have basic skills. I just had like a little witch's garden installed in my backyard. I don't know how to use it yet. So everything is growing out there, and I keep walking out and being like, you smell good and you look good. So the next step is going to be I figure out how to use it. One of the things, though, is eucalyptus, one of the herbs, medicines that we need right now. It's cleansing and it purifies unwanted energies, and I'm sure we have a lot of that. All right, so that's our reading, and then here's the poem I wanted to share with you all. It's called Full Moon Spell for Getting Through the Night. And we're not on a full moon right now, but we're always between full moons. So I think it always works. All right, you ready? Yeah. I do not consent to these horrors done to them, done to us. I will not be silent. I will not accept death from any hands but God's. I will not forget. I am becoming ungovernable. I am learning to stay awake. I am carving terrain from chaos. I will not shirk my responsibility. I carry a light that can never be put out. I pass it to you. Even the full moon borrows this fire, daily brighter with my rage. I grant permission to all benevolent healers, pray my name. I'm learning to sustain a righteous scream. I dance in the cycle of light and shadow. I live as if I am dying. I know now is precious. I am becoming accountable. I am learning to rest. I am returning to the earth. I will carry 5 pounds of the future: water, oxygen, light, witness. I know I need you. I wake up weaving a wordless spell for life, for us, for breath. Ashe. So the invitation is, as Rob told us, right, to keep breathing, to pay attention to our inhale, to pay attention to our exhale. Notice if the tarot card made you inhale, made you exhale, made you deepen your breath. Notice that the poem made you inhale, exhale, deepen your breath. And as we go through this conversation, we're going to be as honest as we can be. So that's going to make our breath sometimes catch, sometimes deepen. But what we're doing right now in this room is a radical act of breathing together, conspiring together to craft a future together. So we want to be grounded in that shaping, creating, co-breathing energy. Do you feel like you're in the zone? Ready to go? All right. Okay.
We've curated a few questions, of course. And for you in the audience, we encourage you to submit your questions via the Hoover app. So you need to be on the app or sitting next to somebody on the app so you can submit your questions. So when something bubbles up for you throughout the conversation, please submit those questions via the Hoover app. Our team will ask those at the end of our conversation. Question number 1. Are you ready?
I'm ready, baby.
All right. Your work invites us to imagine and practice emergent strategies rooted in relationship and possibility. In this moment of deep polarization and collective grief, what practices do you believe are most essential for communities to truly transform together rather than simply survive side by side?
That's a fire question. I read this, I was preparing. I've been trying to be more prepared. And I'm always a person who's like, let's prep, more presence, just be there, it's going to be fine, which I still believe. I still want to come fully. But I also noticed that because so much is happening right now, my mind is not what it used to be. I'm perimenopausal. I'm on medicine because I just got this tooth extracted. So I prepared some notes. I'm going to share those with you, and then we'll see if anything else also comes through in the moment. Y'all feel okay with that? Okay. So the first practice is self-regard. And Toni Morrison has this incredible book called The Source of Self-Regard, which I highly recommend as required reading right now. But what I wrote about this is, first, we must see ourselves clearly. Are we merely an us in opposition to a permanent them, which is a reductionist, isolationist, and illogical and emotional people of reaction? That's what we are if we're that. I think that history wants more from us than just playing the role of being the victim or villain that colonization allows the colonized to be. So we must see ourselves in relationship with massive patterns of colonization and genocide and ecocide and white supremacy and the production of scarcity and the production of war, right? That as we're thinking about food, as we're thinking about taking care of our people, we're never outside of these larger cycles of history that are playing out. And actually, the way that our people have always survived is by being able to feed each other through these massive cycles. So that self-regard feels really important. I think that I hear people say the word resist a lot. And I'm really excited about that feeling that people are like, yeah, we got to resist this. But I've also been organizing and trying to create social change for my whole adult life. I just turned 47, Virgo excellence. But 47, so since I was like 17, basically, I have been thinking about how we change this world. And what I have not seen people do very often is practice resistance in a massive way, not until they feel like their rights are on the line. So I want us to practice this. I want us to think about what resistance means to us, how we resist what's happening. I also want us to think about the balance inside of resistance of really remembering what's tried and true and then figuring out what is new that we could try, right? So I keep saying, like, we've been here before, but we've never been here before. So all of us, every single human in this room is a survivor of genocide. Like every single person in this room, you might not know the story of what happened to your peoples. It might have been so long ago. It might have been pre BC, whatever. You don't know. But a lot of us in this room do have a memory. We do have a story. We do have something that says, I remember what happened to our folks. I remember that people tried to eradicate us. That's important because this is a moment of mass eradication. If we really look at what's happening around the world, more of the people in power are trying to come up with stories that allow more of us to be erased from society, be erased from the world, be victims of viruses, be victims of famine, be victims of climate catastrophe. But we're all survivors. So there's some tried and true things that we can turn to. And I said, this is the only intersection I'm interested in, is like, how do we bring the best of what we do know and match it with what we haven't tried yet? How do we build on what has worked for liberation and equality and surviving ethnic cleansing and global warmongering? And how do we recognize as a lineage of survivors that the most common aspect of our species might be that we have survived the impossible before? A lot of species have gone extinct on this planet. It's quite possible that we will. I always have to sit with that and just be like, well, we're doing our best. We're doing our best. I'm not saying the dinosaurs weren't doing their best, right? But we have perhaps more tools than they did. Yeah. So right now it feels like there's more happening concurrently than has ever happened before. But that actually might just be the experience of our communications, which are now so multi-directional. If you're within the reach of a hot spot or a signal, you can tell your own story of your existence. I think this is a really important practice. There's a lot to know, but it's also a lot of potential attention to learn to wield. And I've had some real learning with this of like, how do we wield the attention when it comes? How do we direct it where we want it to go? How do we harness that energy? I said perhaps it breaks us to be this known and unknown at the same time. I think a lot of people are like, I have followers, but do they know me? I have a community, but have I let them see me? Can I grieve with these people or just have meetings with these people? It's time to be really known. Like it's time to practice being revealed. This is why I'm letting y'all know I don't have a front tooth, right? It would be so silly to sit in a room with you and try to pretend like that wasn't the case. With my friends and family, I'm trying to let them know when I'm struggling, right? That I am struggling, that it's like nobody can be hopeful all the time. Everybody has to turn inward and go through the shadow realm and come back through and out. We have to be known in this time. My current hypothesis is that more of us want to be known and want to be loved and feel precious and protected and part of shaping the future. And that kind of loving and living can only be satisfied by relationships rooted in the real world. However the relationships start, we have to bring them into the flesh. So one of the practices I'm in is reducing my time on social media and the internet. I think it's truly reached cesspool levels there. And for a while, I was like, oh, I can bring joy in here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the joy dealer. I'm going to make these meme threads, and y'all still going to feel great about the internet. And then the internet has outwitted me, outdone it. I'm just like, y'all, it's too hard to sift through all this to find you the gems and the diamonds. I just don't know if I have it anymore. But I'm finding that my life is still feeling so good and meaningful, even if I don't have these posts that are going viral every minute and a half. I'm finding deeper relationship, and I want to invite you all to be in that practice with me. I'm not saying we have to get off or cede the territory completely. I don't think we know yet what to do about this problem, but I do think we need to make sure we're bringing our mindfulness and our attention to how we're using the precious resource of our brain. Overall, we must outgrow our current limitations. I think the final thing I want to say on this first question, see? I was like, I made notes, girl, but I'm going to get to the end of it. I think we must resist the divisive tendency that we are being told is inevitable for our species. We need to expand our we and remember who we are related to and who they are outside of the death cult of this nationalist project. There are fights to be had, but we are instead being goaded into wasting our precious time and intelligence fighting with ghosts and concepts and programs on the internet. Reclaim your time, reclaim your energy, and reclaim your relationships. I am a mixed race person, which we know in the Deep South, it's like somebody was a slave owner, somebody was a slave if you go back in this lineage. My lineages, I actually know some of the names of these people, and we're learning how to all sit at a table together still. It's taking decades. My parents got married in 1976, and just this past year, there's been some cross-familial support and love and relationship with each other. So that's like 50 years, 51 years of time. And I want to share that because I have been in relationship with people who identify as MAGA. I have been in relationship with people who identify as transphobic, who identify as homophobic. I've been in relationship with people who I know my whole life were racist. I'm in relationship with people who are anti-immigrant. I'm in relationship with these people, and every time I go, they know I'm coming. And they know that they're going to have to deal with someone who is the opposite of those things and who believes in love and freedom and connection and everyone's right to be who they are. And I went through a period where I was like, I'm not coming to visit y'all. I'm not coming to see you. Like, y'all a mess. And it's good for my mental health to be far from you. But if I'm not coming to see them, nobody who believes what I believe is coming to see them. Nobody who believes what I believe is penetrating the fortress of Fox News that is wrapped around their brains, right? So I've been reclaiming those relationships with both Black and white family members. And with my Black family members, I see the divisiveness coming in around immigration and having to remind folks like, there was a time when we were the most demonized people, and we still live inside of that. We're still being lynched today. We don't want to expand that to our brothers and sisters who are coming here for the same reasons we do, and who are usually coming to work the land a lot of times and be in relationship with land that we know how to work. We need to be in solidarity in these relationships. I'm doing this with my white family who are, I think, just now starting to look around and be like, wait, I think we might have been hoodwinked and bamboozled. But they're at the beginning of that inquiry after a decade of really going hard at it. And it takes a lot of internal fortitude to recognize that my values will not be sullied by loving these people and by talking to them and by protecting them. My grandfather was an evangelical Baptist, and every single person you talked to, he was like, I need to make sure you know about Jesus because I just want to make sure you have a chance at heaven. I just want to make sure you have a chance. You might say no, but I want to make sure you have a chance. And I'm like, I don't believe the same thing you believe, but because I believe that heaven is right here, right now. I believe that every place we are could be heaven. I think we are on still the most sacred land. And there's a reason why this planet was made, and we were made to go on it. And I'm a space girl. I'm a sci-fi girly. If the aliens come tomorrow, I might be like, okay, I gotta go. But I will always be an earthling. I know myself to be an earthling. I know that I'm meant to be in and of this place. And I know that this place can provide more than enough for me and everyone I love. So I always go that way with people. I'm like evangelical, and I'm like, I want to make sure you know that you have a choice to turn and love this land and let it feed you, to turn and love this community and let it take care of you, to contribute something meaningful to people who contribute something meaningful to you. So I think those are some of the practices that we need to be in right now. They seeing that?
We would love if there's someone in the building that can do something to the screen. It is quite distracting.
I don't
We
know.
just need something done and appreciate you. Abby, do you have a
They
phone?
can just turn it off. Yeah.
Turn it off. Yep.
Or yeah.
Yep.
I'll only look at y'all, but I was just like, is everybody okay?
It's spasming.
Y'all can't see it, but it's doing the thing where, like, you know, if someone actually sat on your laptop and then it's like all like glitch. It's like, I'm a laptop. It feels like that. Okay.
Also, thank you for the folks who joined us online. We hope you can see us.
Yeah.
and
Hi.
hear us. We appreciate you. Thank you for the response to that first question. It was pretty deep, and we just appreciate how you elaborated on that and all the practices and ways of being that we can be up to as we move forward in this moment. Curious if you have a follow-up, Abby, or we can go to the next one.
I have a little bit of a follow-up. I think a lot of I felt a thread of the invitation, particularly in this time, to show up to vulnerability, to be seen, to see clearly, to show up to family, community, across difference. And as someone who isn't a writer, I consider writing to be a vulnerable practice. And so, as a writer in particular, I'm curious what invitations or skills or practices you use to show up to vulnerability, to that invitation.
That's beautiful, Abby. Well, I think right now, it feels like writing anything that I share to the public is more vulnerable than it's ever felt before, because it feels like there's almost a commitment to misunderstanding or misinterpretation, or, you know, people are just looking. It's like everything is a little stick of dynamite. Everyone's like, "Oh, you light me up? You light me up?" I'm like, "No, I literally want to disarm everything." So I think for me, one of the practices is trying to continue to share publicly as I'm writing, as things become clear to me, as I feel something true, to be disciplined about sharing it and letting people see it, especially when it feels like something that people are not going to want to hear yet, you know? So over the past 2 years, I've written a ton about Palestine. I've written a book's worth about Palestine. And now the tide is starting to turn and more people are like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying, or I understand what you're saying. But when I was first posting and writing about it, you know, there wasn't anyone else. I didn't feel like I was talking to anyone or with anyone. I felt very alone. But I also felt like, for me, when I'm being vulnerable, but I have to speak, that's my most interesting space. Like inside myself, it feels like the most alive that I can be, because I'm like, I am in response to a lineage. I can feel the lineage at my back. Almost like, you know how a big cat will they'll pick up a baby cat by the scruff of their neck and just carry it. And just, I feel like that sometimes. Like, it's like, girl, you better get up and say free Palestine. Like, what are you doing on earth if you can't say free Palestine? And when you know that that's true, that everyone deserves to be free, why write? Don't write anything if you can't say that. That's kind of how my ancestors are with me. That's how my spirit guides are with me, that they're like, if you signed up to be a writer, if you want to say something true in this world, then you need to speak the truth about the people who most need to be seen and heard, which is also different. Like, I could write about a lot of things. I could write about sex all day and everybody be like, I love it, girl. Yeah, tell me more. And then how do you do that, or whatever. Like, I would have a much bigger audience probably if I wrote about the things that I know people want to read and want to hear. I know how to please people. You know, my survival skill was fawning as a kid. So I'm like, I know how to make you happy. But being a writer is like, it's a different job. It's like, my job is not to make you happy. In fact, it's trying to figure out, like, what is the most engaging way I can make you uncomfortable? What's the most engaging way I can help invite you to change something that you think, with me? You know, I never am trying to, I try not to write to people who I'm like, you're an asshole, or I don't believe you could change, or, I'm really like, I'm writing because I've been changing, and I want to reach out to other people who I'm like, I think we could change. I think this generation could be a breakthrough generation where a lot changes very quickly. And I think we need to have a language for that. Emergent strategy came from that place. It felt so scary when I started writing emergent strategy. Like, I was like, people take me seriously as a movement facilitator and a strategist, and I want to talk about ants and bees and be like, y'all, we need to learn from these bees. I was like, they're gonna be like, girl, go back to California. Like, where are you? What's wrong with you? And and then when people engaged it and were like, no, I see what you're saying, and it actually resonates with what my ancestors taught me or something I know, I was like, okay, when I am vulnerable and when it's the scariest is often when there's the most other people who are also quietly waiting to talk about just that thing, you know? So my astrology, my calling in the world, whatever it is, something is lined up so that that's my job. My job is to be someone who nudges people awake with my words and invites and creates space with my words. Um, I do a lot of writing in water. So I literally sit in the bath, and my friends are all like, what, girl, your computer? I'm like, yes. I have a little bath tray. The computer's never plugged in. You put the computer on the bat tray. You get to write for however much battery you have, right? So it's a nice little time limited thing. But I like to write in the water. I go to lakes, I go to the ocean. There's something about how the water keeps memory and moves things. So I find I'm much more vulnerable. Like when I remember that I'm supposed to be crying and releasing and moving stuff through me, like I'm a river. Like we're just another form of water, right? There's raindrops, there's rivers, there's humans. Like there's different forms. And when I remember that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just came out of the cloud. I have a lifetime, and then I will go back into the river, you know? And so it's just like, I just got to be this. Trying to think if there's anything else there. I also believe everyone has a story to tell. And so my job as a writer is not just to say what I think or what I feel or what I'm doing, but also to listen for the collective story, to listen for all the stories. And so you might not be a writer, but that doesn't mean you don't have a story that you're living and that you need to be telling. And so I'm always telling people that. I'm like, you may not ever put it on the page, but you can be vulnerable at your family dinner table. That might be your space of oration and narration. Or you might be someone who does that in meetings. You might be the person who does that, but don't think your story is unimportant ever. Like, our stories of how we survive this are going to be the most important thing for the next generation, right? They're going to need to know there's a way, that we still believe that there was a way, even when there seemed to be no way. So, yeah.
All right. You often remind us that small is all and that fractals shape the larger world. As we work to dream a way forward as a collective, as a network, how can we honor the small, everyday acts of care and connection as a foundation for building the kind of transformational community, the kind of food system that our future requires?
Beautiful. Two things come to mind for this question. One is, I often feel like I have to remind people, I say small is all, and I also say the large, everything large is made up of the small. So sometimes when we're involved in a small act, we forget that we're part of some larger web of small actions that create larger changes. And so it can feel very like, I didn't even do anything today. I just, you know, and then we forget, like, oh wait, I listened to a friend of mine who was on the verge of a breakdown, and I helped her get through that. And that's part of weaving this larger web of catching each other so we don't fall all the way through. That's meaningful. And it's meaningful in the connection between you and the other person. But it's also meaningful as we look at the entire world and be like, there are people in circumstances that are beyond our imagination suffering. They're getting through just like we are. They're waking up at the beginning of the day and they're figuring out from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And someone holds the space for them to feel what they can feel, right? And there are people who are living in situations that are unimaginable in the other way, where they're so disconnected and so out of it. When I look at people who have the most privilege, when I'm actually around them, I'm dumbfounded by how little they can connect, how hard it is to have a meaningful, authentic connection, how lonely they are, how much they're trying to spend to get satisfaction of connection instead of connecting, you know? And I think that that's the work of the most privileged, you know, to figure out ways back into their humanity. But for those of us who are doing those small acts of connection, we have to remember, like, oh, this is the alternative to capitalism. I really think those small acts of care are the ways we liberate ourselves from a system that monetizes every single thing that we do. I love to reclaim and be like, nah, this is free, baby, because I'm free. So I'm freely giving my love. I'm freely giving my time. Now I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I make my living, but also how do I be as generous I can in whatever I'm doing? So the first thing is that tying it into the larger web. And if you can't tie it into larger web, then you might be doing performative actions. So it's also a way to check, right? It's like, oh, I did this so that people could see me doing this, but I can't, it doesn't actually tie into the larger theory of change that I have. So I think this is the thing, you know, black squares on social media or whatever. There's something I do. I did this so people could see me do this, but it didn't actually increase my sense of being connected to Black people or being connected to someone suffering or whatever. So really checking that and being like, does this actually tie into my bigger theory of how change happens and what kind of change I want to be evoking in the world? Um, so yeah, let the small be all, but really think about what larger pattern you are co-creating when you're in that small practice. And then I think the second piece is gratitude. Like on a lot of levels, I have started to really hone in on all this very small ways that people show me love, all the very small ways that people are authentic and hold me accountable. Um, Small ways that people break through the crack and they're like, hey, you know, for me, it'll be something like someone will reach out to me and be like, oh, I saw you just posted this thing. Do you know that this person is actually like messed up, blah, 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 blah. But girl, I didn't know. Obviously I didn't know. I posted it. I thought it was fine. But I also am like, I don't vet, I don't have a team of people who are like, was this person ever bad or whatever. I also don't believe in cancellation. So I'm like, I walk a line where I'm like, I'm not discarding anyone, but I also don't want to uplift people who I know are actively causing harm. So that's one of the small things. I'm so grateful that people will like let me know. And they're like, hey girl, this person's actually really like patriarchal and like kind of mean or whatever it is. And I'm like, thank you. I won't keep shining my light in that direction, right? Help me direct my light. It's a big light. I've got a big light in this world. I want to send it to the right places. Um, I also noticed like in this past 2 months, I've had this like fractured tooth, which, you know, it was a childhood injury, like some kid on a playground and I smashed faces. And I'm sure that he is also having teeth problems. Like, you know, somewhere where he's like, Adrienne Brown fucked up my whole teeth, girl. But, oh, oh my goodness. You guys, game done changed. Hold up. Hold up. Okay. Like, oh. Okay, sorry. Don't fire anybody. I love it. So, but yeah, so I've had this for this past month. I've been in this situation where like I've had to have so many small kinds of help because I have to make so many adaptations. I'm like, I can't just eat things. I can't necessarily just talk. Everything hurts. So I just was on a trip for my birthday. I went to Ireland to do a writing retreat with my sister, and then we were on a trip in Amsterdam. And the whole thing is a food journey. It's supposed to be a trip where we're eating. And I'm like, I can't eat anything. Like I can't chew anything. This tooth's about to fall out of my face. So many small kindnesses helped me to still experience the deliciousness of where I was. So I was in Ireland. The chef who was working with us is an old friend who just has a new baby. And I would come in the kitchen and I would hold her baby and just be bouncing and talking to her. And she'd be like, you know what we could do is we could do this and I could blend this thing and that. And she would come up with some way that I, with my mouth, could still experience a thing while I was doing something small that was delightful to me, which is holding her newborn baby. And she was like, that's so helpful to me that you're holding my baby so I can do this. It was just one of those moments where I was like, this is the community I always dreamt of. And it's just this simple thing of being like, I come in the kitchen and talk to you, and you think about caring for me, and I get a meal, and I give you childcare, and we're talking, building friendship, and learning the whole time. And she, I was like, I need some Ambisol, and she was like, or if you have, she was giving me like these herbal remedies that were like, actually, this would be better for your tooth and do less damage to the rest of your mouth and everything. And so in that moment, I was like, feeling the levels of it, where I was like, this is it. This is utopia. This is heaven. This is it. I'm standing in it right now. And I might only have 30 minutes in this kitchen right now, but in my lifetime, I'm never going to forget how I experienced it. I had the moment. That gratitude for those small moments expands in my cells. And so that I'm looking for that again, I do work as a doula. Mostly my favorite part of being a doula, which is helping people who are giving birth, my favorite part is the after. Is like after the baby comes and everybody's like, woo, and then they all go away. And then you're just like with this exhausted set of parents who are the most honest, unguarded humans. And nobody's faking anything. And everybody's just like, we have not slept. And then you show up and you're like, great, let me make you some oatmeal and clean your kitchen. And they're just like, it's just like that. And I was like, this is it. This is what humans are supposed to be doing with each other. But you having that gratitude to find yourself in those moments of utopia, those moments of bliss and community and food and connection. To me, that's where the small accumulates into a lifetime of wanting that, creating that, building that.
Thank you for that. The gratitude part.
Yes. Yeah.
I would just want to appreciate the gratitude piece. There's so much noticing to get to the gratitude. I heard so much about your ability and willingness and looking to notice. And I think we've been talking so much about it's a hard time out there right now, and we're all sort of like needing to get small, make sure our project, our work, is okay. And also wanting to reach out and knowing that the capacity is different than it was.
Yes.
And so I just want to appreciate that. But part of what I heard you say is that noticing each other and having gratitude for that is a capacity that we might have,
Well, I think it's so important too, because part of what happens is we get overwhelmed and then we're like, okay, I'm going to zone out. So, for me, I'm like, I'm going to go watch every dating show that ever existed, Love Island for the win. But I'm going to just zone all the way out. I'm going to get high. I'm going to go away. Right. And so what's happened is I gave my attention to the worst of it all. And then I'm zoning out and I'm not nourishing. It's like what you do to soil. If you're just like someone just poured toxin in the soil, nobody rehabilitated the soil, nobody took care of it, nothing came out that was toxic, and nothing came in that was nourishing. And then the next day I'm going to repeat, right? Eventually it's like, well, nobody can grow any food here. Nothing good can grow here. I have not developed my own fertile soil. So for me, that noticing is how I'm like, oh, like literally while I was away, a mold grew on top of some of my plants at home. And I came home and I was like, oh, the person who's taking care of my plants overwatered them. She meant well. She doesn't have a green thumb. She has a blue thumb. Apparently, it was like so much water. So, but I'm like, oh, let me notice this. And then like scrape the mold off, get some new dirt, talk to the plant and be like, girl, you're okay. It's, but I'm like, oh, it's my job to make this a fertile environment again. And the same thing is true within myself. So now I'm like, oh, it's not just enough to get off of social media. I need to get into a real authentic conversation, or I need to get into the way of some inspiration. Part of why I say yes to coming to things like this is because it's like, it's so inspiring to me to look at a room full of people and be like, I'm not alone. All y'all are thinking about this. We gonna be all right. Okay, North Carolina gonna be all right. Like I just feel like, oh, there's so many people right around me who are actually inspiring. And for me, being inspired doesn't exhaust me, right? I don't need to run away from that. Now, I might be like, I'm so glad you did that. Let's go watch Love Island together, right? We still need to rest and we need to play. But it matters so much to me to be like, let me not just tune out, but change the channel. And then I need to be nourishing myself. And rest is nourishing, that noticing of the good and looking for the good. Like if you're struggling, I love the evening gratitude practice where it's like at the end of the day, find 1 to 5 things you can just be grateful for that happened in that day. You're starting to rewire your mind to be like, I resist the narrative that everything is a disaster and the only disaster is happening right now. I push back by noticing all the good, all the survival, all the innovation, all the connection, all the fertility that is also being fomented in this time. You know. I love you with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question. Can I ask? Adrienne.
Yes, dear.
You sat with Abby and I just for a moment before we came in. And we are co-curators of a team of brilliant humans doing food work alongside other brilliant, beautiful, brave food practitioners in North Carolina.
Yay. Thank you.
I'm curious what you say to leaders such as us during a time like this, knowing that the two of us don't come from the same background.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we had the privilege to stand here in this space at the very beginning of this gathering to offer land acknowledgement from our unique perspectives, Abby as a white woman and me as a Black woman. So I'm curious what you say to leaders who are trying to set an example of co-leadership that is multiracial during a time like this.
Yeah, so much to say. I think the first thing is, and I see this in you, right? But I think this is one of the biggest hurdles we have to overcome is thinking that the other or ourselves is inherently bad or lesser, right? So if you're Black, you know, we're raised with a certain sense of like, you have to work twice as hard. You're going to be seen as inferior. Maybe your story doesn't matter as much, or it matters, but only as a victim story, not as a leader story. So it's overcoming all that internalized noise to be able to show up as a peer and as an equal. But then as a white woman to also show up, and I feel like I've seen this happen in our movement where it's like, all of a sudden, I remember it was almost like a day, it's like something flipped. All of a sudden, it was like all the white people in my life started showing up being like, I know I'm white, you know. And I was like, what? You're just white. I mean, you're just born into a white body. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, you're not inherently a bad person. There is a responsibility to carry, and you just have to carry it. And so if everybody can walk in with their shoulders back and their chest up and just looking eye to eye with each other and just being like, okay, we both bring very different things to this. I think the more you can actually talk about your lives, the better you are. So that we're not just the projections that we've been told to see in each other, right? But that there's a real sense of like, we're comrades in this. We could be equals in this. And being equals doesn't mean we have to do all the same work. It means that everyone is allowed to do what they do well, right? And not be micromanaged, you know? I think having explicit conversations around the culture you're trying to co-create, in the nonprofit world and a lot of the social justice world, the default culture is white, right? It's sort of like a white sensibility around time or structure or conversation, because that's where a lot of this stuff originated. So being intentional and being like, okay, we know that that's the case, and without making it like, you know, adding a little kente cloth on the side, it's like, how do we genuinely build you know, shared multicultural space? And what makes it something that's enjoyable for everyone here, where everyone gets to be in their dignity? And in some way, that is how we untie the knot of colonization, right? That's like, oh, colonization says one culture is better than another and everyone has to assimilate into one way of being. The counter to that is there's many, many ways of being. And what we're trying to do is figure out how we share this earth and how we enjoy all these different ways of being. And, you know, whenever you travel someplace, everyone's like, come practice my shit. Come do my thing. Come do it with me. Like, I've never been anywhere where people were like, you're not allowed to do this with, you know, like literally every place I've ever been, they're like, girl, you want cornrows? Let me cornrow your hair. Like, I laugh every time I'll go down to Jamaica and there's always white people with their hair cornrowed. And I'm like, you would get canceled in the US and you or clowned or something. But in Jamaica, there's folks just like, look, this is part of our industry, it's part of our tourism, it's fine. It's part of our culture, it's whatever it is. I'm like, I long for those authentic experiences where people can just be like, this is what we do. Come try it out. It's not yours. Don't take it. Don't steal it. Don't try to make some money off of it, call it box braids, whatever. But come be with me in my culture. And I think food is a really good way to do that. So food is like my favorite community building practice, community building tool. Whether it's feeding each other or having spaces where food is the center of how we're gathering and what we're doing together, what we're sharing with each other. And this is another way to disable all the projection, right? And just be like, what did your grandma teach you to make? What did your grandma teach you to make? You know, what's important to your family about food? What are the important times of the year where food is how you gather? Who makes what in your family? You know, I love telling people that. I'm like, there's some people in my family where they are not allowed to make certain dishes. And it's a cultural importance that they do not ever even try, you know? Leave it be, because that's what Auntie May does. That's just who makes it, you know, whatever it is. But in each family, I think when people start sharing those kind of stories, we realize that so many of the things we think are different about us are not actually that different, right? And then we can focus in and be like, well, what are the things that are different? Mostly it's just about privilege and self-identity, how you've been told to regard yourself. Once we start to get in that space, I think then we're really having a real conversation. Like, and I like that as soon as I sat down with y'all, I was like, oh, y'all are real about who you are, what you bring to the table, what's different in your lives, you know, that you say you're around the same ages, but wildly different lives. But here you are sitting side by side co-doing this. And that's just a testament, right? That's like, oh, I say this with my friends where I'm like, you know, some of my friends became parents very early in life. And so now we have very different class status because they've been raising 3 kids on the same income that I've been just gallivanting around to Europe on, right? So I get to be rich auntie to them, and that could be cute. But to me, to be politically aware in our friendship means to be like, I also want to make sure I'm sharing my wealth with you, like wealth, you know. I say wealth, I'm laughing because this tooth has depleted the bank, but in America, a tooth can make you poor. So I'm gonna be all right because my friends have my back and I have my friends' backs. And like, we're honest about our money and we're honest about where the money comes from. When I'm collaborating with people, we're very honest about what money or resources or access we have. Those things make a multiracial friendship or multiracial working relationship real. When you're working with people where you're like, I'm still keeping all of my access over here, but we can have a nice little tete-a-tete, right? That's not a viable, real friendship or a viable, real collaboration. So I always tell people that. I'm like, if it's multiracial, make sure you can talk openly about the money, because that's how you sort of start to upend and undo the remainders of slavery that we're still dealing with, right? Where it's like some people have it and some people don't, and people who have it think that they earned it. And I'm like, no, actually, it was taken, you know? So let's talk about the redistribution that needs to happen as we're building something together. Isn't it so fun though? When you get in there, you're just like, girl, give me your money. And vice versa, right? It's just like, I want to give you real respect. I want to give you back the dignity of being a person who's not just taking, but collaborating. So, yeah, that's some thoughts.
Yeah, give it up. It's funny when you talk about food and conversations that Abby and I have had, and I've grown to appreciate her grandma, who liked Hellman's mayonnaise, and my grandma liked Duke's mayonnaise.
Look,
and we have
different worlds.
those conversations,
Yes.
and I'm like, oh, child, that's the wrong mayo. But she was like, no,
You're gonna put that on
like
everything?
my grandma. And I'm like, because you love your grandma,
Mhm.
I love you, and I love
Yes.
Hellman's, and I love Duke's.
Yes.
So yes, we do have.
No, and
those-
white grandmas love Hellman's mayo.
You
I'm
love
telling you, my grandma will, my white grandma will put that for every meal.
Yes.
In the bottle on the table.
Absolutely.
Wild.
If you're coming to my house, you're getting Hellman's mayonnaise, y'all.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about Grandma Margaret. though.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that. I think we're getting close.
Yeah. Does it feel like you want to talk to the people? Want to hear what they
I
have?
want to turn it to the people. I
Okay,
hope your
cool.
hands have been busy, and we're gonna give. Yes, Brett, can you come? Thank you, love.
Hi, Brett.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Thank you for
too.
being here.
I like your earrings.
I need my app. Thank you everyone who submitted on the app and who liked. That's awesome. So we know what folks want to hear. I'm going to combine two questions if that's okay to start. So let me know if I need to repeat anything.
Okay.
So the first part is, what do you suggest as self-care practices when engaging with family members who believe that who you are or your family shouldn't exist? Sitting with the invitation to reclaim relationships, but it's also painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part is, how do we have basically grace for those folks as well?
Yeah. Good question. If you want to throw your hand up and you're like, that was my question, then you can. Okay, cool. I won't tell everybody. But I'll say a couple of things that I've done. I don't know if this is like the only way, but these are some ways that I have managed. One first is boundaries. So when I started really coming out as queer and started getting all my tattoos and piercings and whatever, I just kept doing one thing after another that my mother's family was like, no, 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 you're never gonna get to heaven. No. So it would be more and more uncomfortable to come visit with these people that I loved and who I had grown up with and knew that they loved me or were trying to love me as a kid. Now, I say trying because when my mom married my dad, my mom and dad got married in South Carolina. They fell in love at Clemson, South Carolina. My dad was a Black man who made eyes at my white mother across the library. This is a story they tell. We're starting to learn. I was like, this may not be the whole story. But the story that we've told is that he made eyes at her across the library, and then they were married 4 months later. They're still together. They like each other, okay? This is why the Love Island show, I'm like, it can happen. 3 months is a lifetime. Anyway, so they fell in love. So and it was like it had just been legal to even get married. And then my mom's family disowned my mom for a while until I was born. I mean, who could resist? I was such a cute baby. I was just like, y'all, I'm coming for your little white heart. So, but yeah, as I started to become more and more myself, they had less and less tolerance for that. And they wanted me to quiet myself, be less of myself, be less free. Some of them would say that it was for my safety, you know. Some of them were just like, I just straight up don't understand. I don't understand gay. I don't understand gay, right? That's a quote. That's a sentence. That's a period. So for a while, I held boundaries. I actually spent about a decade not going to see that family, and they knew why. And I had said, I told my mom, I was like, if I can't come and bring a partner home, if I can't come and be myself and I can't say what I need to say, then I don't want to be here. And I held that line through the first Trump presidency, and it felt really righteous, but it didn't feel really right. So in this past few years, we've been really intentional. My sisters and I have been really intentional about going home. And what I have found works self-care wise is going to the bathroom as often as I need to look in the mirror and remember who I am and that I'm like I can come and go from this place, and I do not have to be destroyed or changed by it. Reminding myself that I'm coming in love and with love, and that's what I'm there for. Having the conversations where I feel like change is possible. So one of the conversations I had with one of my Black uncles recently was really beautiful. He had brought up immigration like 2 visits ago and had brought it up at an aside, and I caught it. I was like, hey, I heard you just make a little joke about immigrants, and I just want to say, you know, how I feel about this, whatever. So he had been waiting and waiting for months and months and months. So I came back. He was like, you know, you brought up this immigration thing. I want to talk about it. And I think we just let everybody in. Nobody lets everybody in. Nobody in the world lets anybody in, right? He just starts going off. That's what he really sounds like. He's wonderful. He's like one of my favorite people in the world. So he starts going down this path, and I was like, I'm ready for this conversation. I spent my whole life studying for this conversation. Like, I went to college, I got an education, and I know how to talk to another human being about liberty and love and everyone's right to exist and all this. And so I turned and got in the conversation with him. But I really made it like a self-care thing too. I was like, I'm getting face to face, eye to eye with you, and I want to have it. I'm going to ask you some questions about when you were growing up. Did you feel like you had a place in this country? Did you feel like people wanted you to be here? And like we got into it. By the time the conversation was over, all my nibblings had come in the room, and everybody else, his wife had gotten in the conversation. She'd be like, well, actually, you know, everyone has something to say about it. But I brought my facilitator heart. You know, I brought the part of me that's like, how can I say that I can go have a conversation with some of the biggest leaders in the world, but I can't figure out how to have a conversation with my uncle and my cousins? No. Like, I need to bring my skill home. That's a self-care practice too, is that I do know how to move through a hard conversation. That's actually one of the things I'm best at. So that, and then these are random, but my sister and I, as we were driving to visit family, we put on music that we really loved that we could sing out loud to, both on the way there and on the way back, and just like moved it out. So on the way there, we were listening to Fleetwood Mac. It was like, I'll follow you down to the sound. You know, it's just like, you can't mess with me. You'll never get away from the voice of the woman who loves you, you know? And on the way back, it was Cardi B. And both things were really cathartic soundscapes. I think music is actually like supposed to help us have a collective release. It's like a time capsule of like a feeling that you can release it. And then I'm a big bath person. And so I will get in the bath with sage and incense, and I'll just be like, if it's not meant for me, let it go out with this water. So that's the like self-care stuff. I think the grace part comes with accepting that each person is on their own journey through this life. So that means that each of my family members is also on their own journey through this life. And that I'm here to help shape them and be in relationship to them, but I'm not here to fix them. It's not my job to make them have a different life than the one that they have signed up for before they got here. I don't exactly know how it all works, but I have to accept that each person is actually on their own journey. When I do that acceptance, it liberates me to actually be there and be like, okay, like I don't have to internalize this as a failure. I have not failed because I cannot get you over the hump of your transphobia. I just have to keep being water, persistently dripping as like, I love trans people. I just love them, right? And I love everybody. And like, you're not going to take anyone from me. Everyone is miraculous. And that's what I'm here to do. And I want them to accept that that's what I'm here to do. And I have to accept them being where they are. There's a somatic exercise that I love to do that helps with this, where everyone try this with me. We'll see if we can work it. Take your left hand and just make a fist as tightly as you can. Yeah. And really like yourself is in there. You're trying to protect yourself. You're inside this hand. You're tight. Now take your right hand and try to peel it open. You're going to power it open. Is anyone able to make any traction? No, right? You can't open that hand, okay? Okay, so now your left hand still holding it nice and tight. With your right hand, just wrap around it and comfort this fist. Hold it. And just notice, does the fist soften? Is there an instinct in your fist to soften, right? Yeah, mostly. Some of you are like, no. Okay, that's fine. It's a deep piece of work we got. We're holding on to a lot. So, right? But if you think about that, right, where you're with your family members or with someone you love who's holding on to something so tight, and you're trying to come at them and be like, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. That's you peeling, trying to do it, as opposed to being like, are you scared of losing your job? Right? Has something been taken from you? Have you lost something to somebody else? You know, because we're food people, we're talking about land and food access and who has control of that. It's very real. Like it's very like it's our fundamental survival is being kicked up. And if people are being told that someone else is going to make it so they can't eat or feed their family, that gets tight so fast, right? And that's fundamentally what's under so much of what we're told is our hatred of each other is someone saying, you can't exist if that person exists. You can't. You will not be able to take care of yourself and your people if those people exist. It's not true. It's never been true. But that story keeps persisting. We keep being told that that's the case. The truth, as far as I understand it, is that we live on this earth that is abundant. And if we learn to partner with it, there's enough for everybody. That's that soft hand that can come in. If I know that that's the truth of the earth, then I can come in and be like, no one on this earth is going to take your food from you. But then my organizing is how I make that true. You know, it's like I can say that, but if I don't like work with them to be like, okay, but you did lose your job or you did lose, you know, you can't see the way to do this right now. So to me, that's the grace is being like, I need to accept that you're on your journey. And my journey is to be a soft hand around you being yourself. And my journey is also to keep inviting. You know, I see myself as a lifelong invitation to freedom. I'm like, I want everybody to find their way here and have a chance to be in community, to have a chance to be in the kitchen bouncing with the baby, have a chance to take care of each other and feel cared for. So that's the grace that I can offer. And I can feel it. I think you all can when someone's trying to change you, right? We can feel that manipulative tendency. We always think as organizers it's okay to do that. We're like, well, it's okay for me to manipulate you because I'm right. Right? So we have to check that part of ourselves and be like, I'm relating to you. So I do want to say honestly that I'm like, I see you and what I see feels hurtful to me. What I see feels like you're rejecting some core aspect of me. And if that's what you choose to do, I accept that. That's where you are. And here's my boundary. And here's what I can offer. Right. One of the things I do try to do is bring it into the light, you know, as much as I can. So now I go play spades with both sides of my family. We are a card playing family and we play spades. And sometimes someone will bring something up and I'll be like, I don't think you're ready for that conversation. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. And I will tell you exactly what I really think if you're ready for that. Or we can just keep playing spades right now. It's up to you. Right. And now my family knows they know who I am. And so some of my uncles, it's all uncles, it's all patriarchy. They're like, Adrienne's got a lot to say. I'm like, yeah, let's get into it, you know? And sometimes they'll choose to keep playing the card game, you know? And I can accept that too. And I have to be okay with that I'm like, okay. You know, the other factor, I'm just tangential, but dealing with older family members is so special to me. Like, I'm like, I don't have a lot of older family members. And I think in a lot of Black families, I don't know, it's just like, one of the things you can really witness as a multiracial person is how life expectancy is different if you're Black and white. So my Black family members are all dying earlier, are all struggling with health issues much earlier, is very tangible, like what the privilege difference does. And you're like, oh, I have a lot more older white family members than I do Black family members. And I'm noticing like what it feels like to deal with someone who's in their 90s. And like my grandmother is in her 90s and finally was just like, you know what? Everyone has great gay grandkids. I want to see my grandkids. Okay. I had to stay away for a year for 10 years for her to have that. Like, oh, look around and be like, everybody else has gay grandkids too. All these old people. Okay, great. Everybody has gay grandkids, and so here's yours, right? But some of that she had to do on her own, and I don't come at her like a hammer. She's 92. I come at her like I'm holding something very fragile because she's fragile. She's precious to me. I come from her. But because she's fragile, I'm like, I'm not going to come at you if I'm too angry to be around you. Like, that's not how, for me, I'm like, I respect my elders. I'm like, I'm not going to come at you if all I can do is yell at you and all you can do is yell at me. So I think there's something there too about being like, if the relationship can't hold peace, can't hold connection, then I can be mature enough to stay away, you know? So that's, some of the dance of this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
The next question is, how do you stay informed, but at the same time limit social media? And also, you gave us that beautiful Toni Morrison book recommendation, but do you have others?
Yes. Oh, yes. Y'all, I'm really trying to figure this out right now. So I'll tell you the truth, and it's not the neatest. So I have a couple of friends in my life who are the news junkie people in my life. One of them is a professor. One of them is like a podcast creator. And one of them has been a reporter, journalist. And the main way I actually stay informed is by asking them, like, what is on your mind? What is bothering you? What's causing you concern right now? Tell me about it. When the Charlie Kirk thing happened last week, I was like, who is this person? I do not know who this is. I don't have any idea what this is. And everyone's reacting like this is going to be a big deal. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening actually. And so I asked a good friend of mine, who I was like, who is Charlie Kirk? Why does this matter? Help me understand it. And being able to be humble in that way, because for a long time, I think what a lot of us do is we're just like, I have to just kind of act like I know about everything that's happening. And especially when I first started to be like in the public eye more, people would ask me about something, I'd be like, yep. Yes. I mean, for sure, that's messy. I wouldn't know what I was talking about, y'all. Like, I wouldn't know. And I talked to so many public speakers who are like that, who are like, yeah, I don't know. People just expect me to know stuff. And so I'm like, I made an agreement with myself about 20 years ago now. Gosh, I'm getting up there. But I made an agreement with myself that I was like, I'm not going to fake it till I make it. I'm not going to talk about shit I don't know about. So the humility that comes with that is that you're like, I mostly don't know about most things because most of us, I don't think, can know. Like, the only way you can really know deeply about everything that's going on is if you're not doing anything, right? But if you are doing anything, then you have a limit to how much you can take in about everything. And I think that's a good limitation. So I'm like, oh, if I don't do any of the things I need to do in my life, I can be fully informed about the Ukraine, about Gaza, about everything that's happening everywhere in the world and here, and everyone's name and every dynamic and all. So I basically took all elected stuff out. I was like, I don't really care about that. I will vote when I need to vote every 4 years, and someone who does care about it will tell me what I need to know about it when the time comes. Or I will ask questions. Like in this last election, I was just like, okay, y'all, I don't really know what's going on with this election. I'm going to do a podcast special series and just learn about stuff. And that's what I did. I just asked people to have public conversations and tell me about stuff publicly. I do that a lot. And I'm a huge fan, and I think that people should do that more in their own lives. Like if you have that one friend who's always like, have y'all heard about this? I'm like, engage them. No, tell me about it. What do I need to know? Why do you think this is important? What should we know and what should we do about what we know? That's the other thing for me that's really important is like, I want to be informed for the sake of being able to take action. So when people tell me about stuff, this has been a big point of contention with some of my friends. We've been talking about the Congo, we've been talking about the Sudan, and they've been like, well, why aren't you spending more time? Why aren't you putting more attention there publicly? And I'm like, because there's not a clear enough action, there's not a clear enough set of actions for people to take right now. So I'm like, I will keep raising it up, like be aware that this is happening, but we don't have a concerted effort in the US right now of like, here's what that solidarity needs to look like. I think there's racism in that, right? I think we have to look at movements in the US and be like, oh, like it's easier for the masses to look at certain people, to look at the Ukraine and be like, yes, we have to do this. And people, it's like harder to look at. But I'm like, we also have to have clear paths of like, now you know this and here's what you need to do, right? Not just know it, but know it and here's the action or here's the movement, here's the shift to take, right? And it has to be something people can do. So I keep telling people, I'm like, I think it's coming. I think we're in an age where hopefully part of what happens in this era is an ending of genocide, an ending of letting genocide be something that's happening anywhere. But there's people who are like, I am deeply informed, and I can tell you, I feel more informed about the Congo and the Sudan now than I have been ever before. I feel more informed about Gaza, but I also feel more informed about what's happening locally. There's local people in every community, and you'll probably know who they are. They might be in this room, and you could point, who are like walking encyclopedias of your place. And sometimes they come to the meeting and we're like, oh, don't give them the mic because they're going to, they're going to tell stories. One of the things I think helps keep us informed is if we have sessions where those people can just tell their stories, right? Come learn the history of Colfax. Come learn the history of our place. Come learn the history of what we've been building here. Especially when we're organizing together, sometimes we get so in it that we forget to pause and be like, let's make sure that the community knows the story of what we're doing here, being informed locally. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm doing as I get offline more. Yeah, I think the other thing is I'll ask people for their sources for stuff. Like, where should I find out more about this? It's been hard because, so much of our media is compromised right now. And so trying to figure out like who are even the reporters that we can still count on or trust. I think we're lucky that we have outlets like Democracy Now!, Truth Out, places that we can actually turn to that folks are still doing reporting and journalism. So those are reading recommendations. Other reading recommendations. There's a gorgeous book, I think that relevant to what y'all are working on here. My friend Janine Denovage put this book out, I think 2 years ago now, called Brave Community. And it's really looking at like, how do we bring these hard conversations about race, class, colonization, difference, how do we bring those into the space and create a shared language, a shared capacity to have brave conversation around them. So I keep recommending that book to everyone because it's just really a useful tool. I mean, obviously my books, I'm biased, but the Emergent Strategy series, I've published a lot of other people as well in that series, and I'm a big believer in all of those books. There's a gorgeous cancer memoir called All In by Caitlin Breedlove that for me, it really captures what it feels like to be alive at this time. It's like some people have literal cancer, but we're all living in a cancerous world. And we're all living in a world where like so many of the things that we're eating and drinking and breathing are actually causing this toxic state within us and between us. So I keep telling people to read that and just, I don't know, I think we have to think of so many more of the things that are happening as happening to all of us. So we're like, oh, we're in a world of genocide, in a world of cancer, in a world of climate catastrophe, and we're going to get through it together. And then if you're a science fiction person, which, get there. Octavia Butler wrote this set of books called The Parable of the Sower and The Parable of the Talents that particularly for this moment, like we caught up to the timeline. So the books began in the summer of 2024. And so we caught up to the timeline and now we're like in the zone. And there's so much that she thought about and wrote about in a way that now feels prophetic, but is actually just a function of paying good attention to the world around you. I think we need to be writing more science fiction and writing more stories about what we want to do and have happen. So visionary fiction. I encourage you all to write fiction for and with each other. Flash fiction, it could be whatever, but when you're starting to plan an event, write flash fiction about how it would go, like what would be the best possible outcome. When you're working with community, write flash fiction about what that community can pull off together. Start to activate people's imaginations very intentionally. Like, oh, I'm not just showing up to something that y'all did. I'm showing up to something that I'm going to be a part of and I'm going to shape and change. Yeah. Okay.
I think
we have, do we have time for another?
Yes, I think one more.
I'm ready.
We want to end with the question, where do you see abundance in this moment?
Where do I see abundance in this moment? Ooh. Oh, let's see. Well, in my backyard. Like I said, there's this massive garden back there now that is totally overwhelms me. But it's actually one of the most exciting things. I keep telling people, I'm like, if you have doubt about the capacity of the earth to feed you, just make even a small, tiny garden plot. My sweetheart runs this fitness studio in Durham, and they put a garden in the back of it. It's just literally like 8x8 little thing. And we put plants in the back. I got to plant some of them. And it's so cool to come and be like, okay, tomatoes. Like, oh my God, there's more tomatoes than we can use. There's more zucchini. There's more. Every time you plant a garden, there's more of everything. And I like living in Durham because a lot of people have gardens. And so it's not unusual to go to a gathering and like everyone's coming with baskets of different stuff. They're just like, here's my overflow. What's your overflow? And sharing it with each other and then letting that shape what we're eating. That's been cool too, is being like, oh, like we need to process this. We need a lot of peach cobbler right now, or we need like we got to figure out what we're going to be eating. So that the abundance of the earth still feels so present and precious to me. I see an abundance of anxiety and worry and concern. Um, and so I'm like, I'm trying to name that more openly with people to be like, it's okay if you're not okay. It's okay if you're struggling to know what to do with your attention or your time right now. Like, it really is an overwhelming amount of information and crisis and change. And, you know, we are in the midst of a coup. We are in the midst of the whole future of what our nation's functional governance looks like is all up in the air, under attack. And yeah, it's like that is abundant. So let's not pretend it's not. Let's hold on to. I keep telling people, I'm like, I said this years ago, and people are like, well, it is getting worse. I said, things are not getting worse, they're getting uncovered. And we have to hold on to each other tight and continue to pull back the veil, right? That this country, since the founding of this country, has been rooted in unfairness, violence, and death. And so it's inevitable that that would have to come to an end and something else would have to emerge. So maybe the final abundance I see is visionaries. I see so many people who are looking at their community or their family or their place and realizing what it could be and starting to move in that direction. I see so many people actually turning away from the online world. Like when I come into, I'm like, so many people are being like, yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to build the people around me. I've gotten people reaching out to me like, we have little survival groups. We're doing this and we're doing that. I'm like, great. Like the abundance will be in all these small choices to survive with each other. And Octavia Butler, one of her wisdoms was like, you don't know who you're going to be there with. You don't know, like when that apocalyptic moment comes, when the hurricane hit Asheville, like when these things happen, you don't know where you're going to be or who you're going to be there with. So keep getting good at being with whoever you're with, right? Keep getting good at figuring out like what matters to you. Here's what matters to me because we're going to survive. Let's do this together. And then be as close as you can to the people you want to be there with, right? My sweetheart, I'm always like, baby girl, do you want to come stay over again? And she's like, why you want me to stay over all the time? I'm like, because anything could happen. We might move in. We'll see. But like that would be the elegant solution, but I'm like, I'm not trying to have apocalypse set my relationship patterns. But yeah, I see an abundance. There's still an abundance of love. The next book that I'm writing is a collection of love stories and love practices. And so I've got my lens set on that. But I see so many people choosing love, choosing to make deeper commitments with each other right now, choosing to be in relationship in different ways, beyond monogamy, beyond the traditional family, just figuring out like how are we going to raise each other up and love each other up and protect each other. So yeah, let community be the most abundant thing. Really, go where the community is. All right. Thank you. Thank y'all for your question.
Y'all give it up for Adrienne Maree Brown. I think you can do better than that. Yes. Thank you for your wisdom, for your heart, for who you are in the world, for being close to us. Thank you so much. Abby and I just have a little love offering, and perhaps you might use that when you're writing in the tub the next time. We really appreciate you and for your time and your energy that you poured into us this afternoon. Thank you so much. Y'all, one more time. Can we give it up? You got her.
And I do want to say, y'all are my neighbors. You know, I'm an hour away. I'm starting to do more things in Durham. So I'm going to be doing like a little somatics workshop next month. I'm starting to do writing retreats and other stuff. So I really want to be a local problem.
Yes.